The Treaty of Versailles, 1919. What was the Treaty of Versailles? The Treaty of Versailles was a treaty that officially brought World War I to an end after the November armistice. It was signed between Germany and the Allied powers at the Paris Peace Conference, which took place in the Palace of Versailles in France on the 28th of June 1919. Now you can see where the name originates from. Who were the representatives at the signing of the treaty? The main representatives at the signing of the treaty on the Allied side were known as the Big Three. This group consisted of David Lloyd George, representing Britain, George Clemenceau, representing France, and Woodrow Wilson, representing America. There weren't any representatives for Germany as they weren't invited. Only 2 German diplomats arrived to sign the treaty once the terms were agreed on by the Allies. Since Germany was forced to sign this treaty, it was known as a diktat. What were the aims of the Big Three? Wilson wanted a fair treaty. He wanted to end the war by creating a League of Nations based on his 14 points. He wanted to ensure that Germany wasn't absolutely wrecked after the conference, and he didn't want to blame Germany for the war, as he personally hated the war guilt clause. Clemenceau wanted Germany metaphorically on its knees. He wanted Alsace-Lorraine returned to France as it was taken from them in the Franco-Prussian War, an independent Rhineland, no League of Nations, huge war reparations, and a German army disbanded. Lloyd George was a mix of the two. He wanted a peace to please the victors of the war while keeping Germany strong enough to trade. He wanted land for Britain's empire, and he wanted to safeguard Britain's naval supremacy. What happened once the treaty was signed? The terms given to Germany can be split up into different types: military, economic, territorial, and the war guilt clause. For the military, the army was restricted to 100,000 soldiers, the navy was restricted to only 6 battleships and 0 submarines, the air force was disbanded, and the Rhineland was demilitarised. This also counts under territorial terms. For economic, Germany would have to pay 132 billion gold marks, which was worth around £6.6 billion at the time, and Germany wasn't allowed in the League of Nations. For territorial, Alsace-Lorraine was returned to France, the Saar, an important core area in Germany, was given to France for 15 years, the Rhineland was demilitarised, which was mentioned earlier, the Polish corridor was given to Poland, which split Germany in two, and all of Germany's colonies were handed over to Britain and France as mandates. Germany also had to accept the war guilt clause, which meant they were forced to accept that they caused all the damage and losses during the war. How did the Big Three and Germany react to the treaty? Lloyd George personally hated the treaty, even though Germany's army was reduced and Britain had control over some former German colonies. So really, he's got nothing to bitch about. On top of that, the British public greeted him as a hero on his way back from Versailles. You obviously can't win with this man. Clemenceau was overall pissed off with the treaty. He was angry that Germany still had an army, that the Rhineland was only demilitarised and not made independent, that France only temporarily held the Saar region, and that the reparations were smaller than Clemenceau had first anticipated. However, the public had a mixed opinion on the treaty. While they were happy that France wasn't threatened by the German army in the Rhineland, receiving war reparations, and the Saar region for 15 years, the French public thought the terms should have been stricter. Wilson, however, was quite satisfied with the treaty. He liked the fact that the League of Nations was created and that Eastern Europe had self-determination. The American public, however, had a different story. They thought the treaty was too harsh, unfair, and that Wilson helped Britain and France gain wealth at Germany's expense. America also didn't end up joining the League of Nations in the end, as Americans wanted to stay out of European affairs. So that basically took a shit in Wilson's joining the League of Nations idea. As any sensible individual could imagine, Germany was furious with the treaty, as they were hoping to get a treaty based on Wilson's terms. The problem for them was that the treaty they wanted never came. Later on in Germany's history, a famous man with a silly moustache used the Treaty of Versailles to help get him into power, but that's perhaps a story for another video.